Hello and welcome to your Throws session today on creating digital tribes. I'm going to talk you through about how you can find your tribe and love them hard. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Julie Roberts. I am the Director of More Strategic UK. And I've worked in fundraising and the not-for-profit sector for about 13 years. That's both in the UK and Australia. I'm a very, very passionate fundraiser and mum of two, as you can see from the photos. But my background really is in community and events and peer-to-peer, and I've done that for many, many years. But now I work with charities to maximise their strategic direction with their own supporter tribes, and that's from everything I've learned within those 13 years. And what that really means is how you can understand them, how you resonate with them, and how you continue to engage with them. So let's get started. What really is a digital tribe? So this is a slide shot straight from Wikipedia, where it really highlights that the most important part is the community of people who share a common interest. And I know that might sound really obvious, but it's incredibly important when we are thinking about digital tribes that we think about there are groups of people out there who do share a common interest, and we cannot forget that. So today, what I'm going to do is take you through my 11 golden learnings. These learnings are broken into 4 key sections. I'll talk about how you find them, how you love them, how you know them, and how you find more. Now, one thing that's really incredibly important is that you don't have to start in the find them section. Those 4 can come in any order at all. It's just really important to understand where you fit in that cycle. So as I walk you through the 11 golden learnings, just remember you can apply any of these at any time. So one of the things that's really, really important with creating digital tribes is how that drives success within your community fundraising and events teams, but across the organisation as well. And I think sometimes we forget where the fundraising aspect that we work in, we have to remember that it's not just about that one program area, that our supporters actually sit across all of our organisation, and they don't ever perceive themselves sitting within one program area. So it's something really important we can never ever forget, and these are some of the incredible rules that you can never forget the whole way through it. So this doesn't mean that okay, so that leads me on to talking to you about my 11 golden learnings. To be truly successful in finding them, loving them, and finding more of them, it goes deeper than just having something in common and being on a social channel. I'm going to walk you through my 11 golden learnings on how to create digital tribes and how this will drive success, not just within your community fundraising and events teams, but also across the whole organisation. These rules can be started at different points within your journey, and they can be mixed and matched. So it's incredibly important for you not to feel like you have to start them with find them, love them, know them, find more. You can start at any point. So I just want to let everybody know that today is not about teaching how you get more fans and followers into your social media pages. And the reason for that is because we've seen a fundamental shift in building digital tribes, and you have to be aware of that mind shift. And it's not essentially about having more people on those pages, but of course the shift is being supporter centric. So it's not all about your cause and what you want to achieve. It must be about your supporters and their motivations and their purpose. So it's incredibly important that you're writing content and engaging deeper with these supporters, which will naturally attract more because it will attract their peer networks, friends, family, etc. So today I'm going to take you through some real live examples on what I've learned over the last 13 years on what and how you can create really great digital tribes and how we've built upon our current supporter base within different organisations, so that you can create your own digital tribe, no matter what size of organisation you work within. So my first golden rule really is about exploring the common interest. This really is where you need to start understanding your supporters a lot deeper. So this example that I'm showing you now is some research that I did when I was working at the Cancer Council of New South Wales in Australia. And this research with our community fundraisers really highlighted that the needs from supporters didn't just fall into practical tools. It needed to be advice and management, but also advice from their peer group. So we knew that it was incredibly important that we needed to be on social channels to allow other fundraisers to get tips and advice from other fundraisers. So from looking at that research, we really understood what practical tools we needed to put onto the new microsite that we were developing. We knew that they needed specific support tools. We knew that they needed an identity that they could all collectively sit within. We knew that they needed simple ways to fundraise, and they needed to see how others were doing it. They needed to see case studies from previous supporters who were also raising money for the Cancer Council. One of the best ways that we showcased the common interest really was around highlighting where fundraisers were at on this event map of New South Wales. So you can see there that we had an integrated approach when people were setting up their online fundraising campaigns. It automatically generated a little Dougal, which is the little character you can see there. He was placed on the map of where their location was, and it also told you how they were fundraising, which was incredibly important, because one of the most unique things about DIY or community fundraisers is that they're all doing different ways of fundraising whenever they feel like it. And so that could really help this disparity of people not feeling connected, because they're not all fundraising in one way on one day. And so highlighting people for them on a map to show them what they were doing, that there were others that were like-minded and were in a similar location to them, really helped them feel part of a connected community. And within the first year of this map going live, we actually saw that our supporters were viewing it over 1,300 times just within that first year, with very little promotion. So we knew that it was incredibly important for our supporters. The other thing that's incredibly important is to keep listening. So even though we did that piece of research and we understood exactly what the main ways we could support our fundraisers, and that really was to help them feel connected to each other and the cause, was also to keep listening. So one of the things that we learned from the first phase of research really was to ensure that they were part of one collective unit, shall we say, and we developed a whole brand called Do It for Cancer. But what we did get wrong was that the brand identity actually took over from the charity's brand, the charity being Cancer Council. And so we knew that by keep listening to our supporters, we had to change that, and therefore you can see that the brand now has changed, and the Cancer Council is the one brand identity, and underneath it will always come Do It for Cancer. My second golden rule is all about building relationships. This is incredibly important when we're looking at customer experience. We know it needs to be applied everywhere, and of course that includes us as charities. Our supporters will not expect to be treated different just because you're a charity compared to a commercial entity. And so I really want you to watch this clip. I think it will really help you understand the context of how important customer experience really is.
Can I have a decaf cappuccino, please?
I have to pop you on hold while I transfer you to the coffee department.
Hi there, how can I help?
She said she's put me through to the coffee department. I don't quite get
Coffee department, sorry, you got through to the lager department. Give me a minute.
Huh?
Would you like to make an application for some food or drink today? I just need the first line of your address and your mother's maiden name.
What?
I'm just going to pop you on hold while I transfer you to the wine department. Is that okay?
Double Havana 7 and Coke, please.
Oh, blimey, that's completely on my reach. I'll put you on hold for that one, okay?
We reserve the right to cancel your fish and chips without prior notification. However, if you do not notify us in writing...
Business is important to us.
Hi there, what can I get you? Thank you very much, that's £5.
Cappuccino's £5.
£6, Sinclair's charges. Certainly, that'll be £100 of unnecessary charges.
Oh, how much? For a wine and a... What?
Yeah, so it's £6 for the wine, and then the rest is unnecessary charges.
No.
I'm afraid I can't accept your payment at the moment.
I'll get you in a minute. I'm going to pull you over the bar. We both over here having a conversation.
I can put you onto our conversation.
Awful.
Yeah, it was awful, yeah.
Eventually I felt a bit angry and I wanted to give up.
Wherever you go, if you pay for a service and it was bad, you wouldn't go back. The service was absolutely terrible and I thought I'd never come back again.
Thank you for your custom today. Would you mind taking a short survey? Your feedback is so important to us.
Thank you.
So I hope you enjoyed watching that as much as I did. But as you can see from the context of that video clip, no longer can we put the organisational wants first. We now have to think like our supporters and delight them with rememberable experiences. Okay, so let me tell you about my third golden rule, and that's all about segmented engagement. But firstly, I just want to focus on acquisition. So before we could start to build our community and start conversations rather than posts at the Cancer Council, we really needed to think about the community characteristics and how we were going to engage them. So let me introduce you to the doer, thinker, talker model. So as you can see on your screen, we've got doers there. Doers are actually the people who are currently community fundraisers, or DIYs as you may call them. And we had to showcase how they were fundraising and why they were doing that. And that really was to empower them and to help inspire others. And so that would encourage their networks to start thinking about potential ways that they could fundraise. And again, gain traction for people talking about us. And that really are people who are sharing, liking, commenting on these posts. And so it's incredibly important that we think about these three segments all together, because one actually feeds into the other. And that's how essentially you move people through the pipeline. So then the second part of the segmented engagement is all about retention. So while some of our acquisition tactics would naturally help with retention, we needed to bring a sense of community to those who were fundraising for Cancer Council New South Wales. And that was really allowing them to utilise the Do It for Cancer social channels as a platform of how they could engage with each other, how they could ask questions, and feel that together they were directly impacting on fighting against cancer. And social media definitely was the right platform for that to happen, because they needed to hear it from each other and not just from the voice of the Cancer Council or your organisation in your particular cases. So just by encouraging that interaction, thinkers were providing inspiration and talkers can start to provide the momentum of energy needed to grow and reach out to others that were never reaching through our traditional forms of marketing, like emails or community events that we were holding. And so we were reaching a whole new network of people that we'd never been able to engage with before. Okay, so the fourth rule is really around providing inspiration. So I just wanted to show you a couple of examples, not only at Cancer Council New South Wales, but also from here in the UK, from a hospice called St Catherine's. And they really have been showcasing some great case studies and allowing their community to respond to those, to really show empathy and feel that they are one together, really gain inspiration from their own community. And as you can see here on the left from the Cancer Council New South Wales case studies, you can show how many likes that they had received. So we were learning each time that we posted content and who was engaging and what sort of response we were getting, to start understanding really what was resonating with our audience. So this leads me on to my fifth rule, which is all around personalising content. And this really is a CX principle. It's incredibly important that we personalise as much as we can, so our supporters really feel that we know them, understand them, and value their contribution. So this is a great little clip that St Catherine's developed on their own, just using an iPhone, and put it straight up on their social channels, which received great engagement from their supporters.
Good luck, China Challengers! We'd like to wish our amazing China Challengers lots of luck as they trek the Great Wall of China this week. They've already raised more than £130,000 for us. You guys are amazing. Thank you!
My sixth golden rule is all about spreading the love. So this really came about when I was at the Cancer Council. We first started to try and get doers. So if you remember back to the doer thinker talker model, we were trying to get doers, the people who were actively fundraising, to attract other doers. And so we decided that a really great way of doing this would be to highlight a particular fundraiser to be our ambassador of the month. And what we would do is seed content about their particular fundraising multiple times throughout that month, to allow the fundraiser feel very loved, that they were getting promotion online for their fundraising page, and really that we were rallying the troops, so rallying the tribe, the Do It for Cancer tribe behind them. And this really was one of the most astonishing things that we saw come from organic community development. And that really was that people who had never met others but had that common connection of, in this instance, the Cancer Council, started to actually support others through donating on their fundraising page. So when we were highlighting ambassadors of the month, we were seeing that other fundraisers were helping drive through clicks to their own fundraising page, and then going through and actually donating to them as well. So they were seeing live support from their Do It for Cancer community, and it really gave that fundraiser a voice in that public domain. So it, spreading the love, helping your supporters to spread the love, not only makes them feel better, but also empowers the community in ways that they can actually help each other, which is really great to see when you're trying to create a digital tribe. My seventh tip is all about supporter insights. Now, many charities are really good at this, and they may do one-off bouts of quantitative and qualitative insight gathering, which is fantastic. But something that's incredibly important is to continue that learning. And one thing that we did again at the Cancer Council was really trying to get to understand our supporters. Not only why were they supporting the Cancer Council, but what did they like, what didn't they like, what did they want to know about, and did they feel that they were really having a great experience with us. And those are the key things that really help drive the strategic development of the Do It for Cancer programme over the next 3 years. But ultimately, insights can be driven in many, many different ways. And some of the key things is that you have to remember that you have to continue to learn. So look at what posts are really engaging with people, understand who your supporters are. So who are doers, who are talkers, who are thinkers, what audience groups are you developing within social channels, and how do you keep learning? So can you do polls, can you do feedback loop surveys, and really great ways to gain quick insights whilst your fundraiser still active with you, rather than waiting to the end of their journey. And this really helps then lead on to my next point, which is all about data digging. So the key thing around data digging is, traditionally for fundraisers, we always look at the O data, and the O data is all about operational data. So this is how many registrations you may have, how many, what the average gift is, what the attrition rate is, what the retention rate, average gift of fundraising, the donor, etc. You know, the world is your oyster in that respect, and many charities are very good at that. What some charities, and most charities that I've worked with, seem to lack is the X data. The X data is the experience data. So what experience are they having with you, and how are you gaining that information and overlaying that with the operational data? And the final data is the why data, the motivational data. So why are they supporting your cause, and how are you harnessing that information and ensuring that the journey that they have with you is really harnessing on that O, X and Y data, not just the O data. It has to be all three together. That's incredibly important to show that you're really listening, understanding and supporting your supporters the way that they want to be supported, not the way that the organisation wants to support them. My 9th golden learning is all about focus of ideas, and this really came about from a theory called paradox of choice. Please go and Google it. You can find many TED Talks on the paradox of choice, but essentially it came from a piece of research where supermarkets were looking into how many of the same jam can they have on a supermarket shelf before the consumer would actually not make a decision and walk away. And the long and short of it is they discovered that you can have 6 of the same jams before a consumer couldn't make a decision, essentially. Why am I telling you about jams? Well, I'm telling you about jams because it's all about the paradox of choice. And essentially what they discovered was it was creating this paralysis, that we were overwhelming consumers with choice. And that same thing can still happen within fundraising, and especially in community or events fundraising, where we decide to overwhelm our supporters with A to Z's of fundraising and a million different ways that they can raise funds to help us. For many, when I ran focus groups, it was very, very interesting that when you gave a very open way to fundraise, many supporters found it incredibly hard to make a decision. So if you can really focus on some key offerings, what is your data telling you that your supporters actually like doing? What is cause related? What works with your cause? And what is making the most money? What are your supporters talking about on your social channels? How can you use all of these insights to really focus on the key ways that your supporters could fundraise for you? That will really help stop creating a paralysis and encourage them to actually go through to acquisition and register, which is exactly what everybody wants. My 10th rule is all about being nimble. So in this day and age, you'll hear lots of organisations talk about MVP, so minimal viable products, going into iteration testing. And that really is exactly how we should think about our community and events products that we're putting out to market. This nimble way of responding to the market is a great way for you to see a trend that your fundraisers may be talking about in their tribe and actually putting it to market in a very quick way and testing to see what that response is like. Now, one thing that was incredibly important, that when we were developing Do It for Cancer, the Cancer Council, we had to make sure that everything was templated. And that just ensured that we could quickly take an idea and put it into market in a very cost-effective way, which allowed support from our all of our fundraisers. And so you can see from the images on the screen that we developed the microsite, so it was all templates that we could very quickly mock up a new doodle design and support our fundraisers and learn as we were going. And this is an incredible way to think about how you use this test and learn iteration. This is also very, very important when it comes to insight gathering. So earlier when I was talking about supporter insights, so that was rule number 7, I was talking about, you know, feedback loop surveys. This is incredibly important here, because if you keep learning from your supporter base, from your tribe, they will be telling you what they're interested in and what they want support with. You just need to be able to get it out to market quick enough to jump on that opportunity. And some of the best event examples have been, I suppose, around things like the Ice Bucket Challenge, where MND were able to get that out to market very, very quickly and really raise a hell of a lot of money from a community-driven product or idea. So my last point and my 11th golden rule is called walk the walk. And what I mean by this is something that I have worked a lot with organisations over the last 2 years. And this really is about, you have to stop thinking like your organisation and you have to start thinking like your supporters. Now that seems very obvious and that lots of organisations would be doing that. But do you actually understand who your supporters are? So are you creating personas to enable you to actually step through how your supporters not just do, so not just literally go from A to Z, but also how are they feeling, how are they thinking, their heart and mind in every point, and what touch points are they having with your organisation, not just face to face but back end. What are those processes? How do you look at that holistically, which really helps you work out as an organisation where potentially those journeys could be breaking down, or where you could actually delight and retain your supporters so much better to increase retention or increase average gifts, which are actually crucial to your organisation. So it's incredibly important that you think about when you're going through those journeys, do you really know what happens at every step of the way? At every step, at every point, do you know how your persona is thinking and feeling, and at what point do you think are the high and low moments within that journey? From that point you can start to see where you need to make dynamic change, and therefore understand how you can start to overlay behavioural economics and CX principles to ensure you are enriching that journey for your tribe to have the best experience with you as possible. And then start to look at, okay, what is the next step? What's the next second piece of acquisition or the next retention tool for them that really they would like to do, not what you would like them to do as the organisation. And that's incredibly important to help many different operational pieces of data, like I was saying, like retention and acquisition and average gift. We see that a very common thing that every organisation wants to increase, but it's incredibly important that you remember how your supporters think and feel and what is happening in the back end. If you don't literally step through those steps, as you can see there in the photograph, that is actually St Catherine's going through their journey mapping session with their personas on the wall and identifying the moment that they need to rectify to ensure that they are delighting and retaining their supporters. So as a recap, here's a reminder on the 11 golden learnings. So as a recap, here is a reminder on the 11 golden learnings. Number 1, help people feel part of a tribe, a movement with one vision. It's that common interest you're looking for to really start to understand how you can create this digital tribe. Second of all, you have to build relationships and gain trust and loyalty. That is incredibly important. This isn't just a piece of acquisition work. This is engaging a deeper relationship with your supporters, which leads me on to point 3, engage. Engage people differently depending on where they are in their registration pipeline. You have to think about the talkers and the thinkers and the doers. They're all out there, they're all on your channels. You just have to remember that content has to talk to each 3 of those segments. The 4th learning was all about how to inspire supporters. So remember the ways that I was showing case studies of other fundraisers and how they were sharing their fundraising journey with others to make sure that the community really felt that they understood and they were resonating with each other, and also felt encouraged that they too could take part in fundraising. Point 5 was about bringing content to life with personalisation and rich media. In social media these days, people don't read as much as they used to. We really need to have lots of video. And with iPhones and tablets and laptops at most people's disposals these days, it's really easy and cheap to do it. The 6th point is all about loving your tribe. You need to support them and praise them in a public domain. This is where social channels come really into their own. And also you have to let the community have their own voice. So it's whilst it's great to hear from the charity that is actually supporting that fundraiser, they too want to hear from other people who have got that common interest. Let them talk to each other. It's incredibly empowering, not only for them, but also for you. The 7th thing, and really critical, is about understanding supporters' motivations and needs. This is never going to stop and never go away. Traditional support engagement surveys that a lot of charities may do every 2 years are great, but you need to keep learning. You need to do it much more frequent than that. You need to see what new trends are coming up, what people are saying, if there's any new pain points appearing due to tech problems or new tech on the market, or even new ways that people want to fundraise but don't understand. You need to be there understanding that and supporting your fundraisers. The 8th tip is all about enriching your data. You have to make sure that you're continuously capturing new data insights and following trends that are already occurring. The 9th tip is don't overwhelm them with too many options. This is a number 1 faux pas that I see so many charities do with DIY community and events fundraising. They totally overwhelm supporters with ideas. And whilst that's great, there's a lot of new fundraisers out there and they don't need that level of information. They just need to see what's the key things that they could do that might suit them. You can always talk to them and give them more tips at a later stage if they ask, but just focus on your top 6 ideas, just like the jam jar theory. The 10th idea is about being nimble. We need to be able to adopt new trends and learn from them and see what your supporters think at the same time. If you're not setting yourself up to be nimble, then you can't jump on new trends, and that's exactly wrong. So in terms of the tribe, they really want to know that you're listening constantly and out there to support them. So if there's a new run, there's a new way of fundraising, then you need to be there and telling your tribe about it. My last tip was one of the most crucial, and that really is walking the walk. So walking in their shoes to understand their experience. I can't tell you how many charities I work with that really don't understand the journey that their supporters are going on with their organisation. There is always one point in the journey where people aren't sure who's answering an email, or what sort of tech they're using, or even how long it could take between communications, or who in the back end is actually doing that process. And more importantly, they truly don't understand who their supporters are, like what persona types there are and how they're thinking and feeling. That is crucial for you to really make some key shifts in your audience's experiences, and that's one that will retain your supporters forever and help you keep raising vital funds for your most amazing causes. I hope that you learn a lot today about how to create digital tribes. This isn't just all about online fundraising. You can also use a lot of these tips for offline fundraising, but don't forget the 11 golden rules. Don't forget that you can use them in any order. They're all crucial, and you need to keep learning and testing your audience. The most important thing really is to be there for your supporters. They are doing an incredible thing for your cause, and together we are making change that we cannot do as a single individual, but together we can really make this world a better place. So if you'd like more information, or you'd like to just talk to me about any questions you may have, on screen you can see my Twitter handle, my email address, or even my LinkedIn profile. Feel free to get in touch, and thank you so much. It's been great for you listening to me today.